Hi everyone. I wish to scream, so I'm not even going to say how are you or anything. I'm just going to scream. I am coming off of my workshop presentation, and the kids trolled us by asking who our favorite Renaissance artist was, but they used the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Luckily, I picked Michelangelo because he's gay as hell, and Michelangelo the Turtle is a jokester, so either way, I win. But I don't think I did very well. I can constantly hear my voice shake. I think it's still shaking right now, actually. But let's not talk about that because PTSD already. It's a joke, but not really. Kind of. Who knows? I don't. I'm going to apologize for the video recording. I did it this morning because I didn't know how long I would be screen printing. So instead of getting to go ahead and finish the actual building design, replacing all the stone with the actual colors that I'm hoping for, you get to see me replacing colors. Luckily, you do miss me trying to create an oval, which is a hilariously painful attempt that took me 4 hours to make. I don't want to talk about it. Ovals are hard. Instead, I want to talk about a post I saw on a subreddit called True Off of My Chest. I think I was banned from Off My Chest for some reason. I don't remember what. It was probably something to do with the trans agenda. But in this case, it was about, and I should stop and say, don't go on True Off My Chest if you don't want to deal with people who are absolute idiots. Anyway, the post that I saw on True Off My Chest was from an 18-year-old boy who just graduated high school, and he's like, my life is over. I haven't been laid. I am 18. I just graduated. I'm still a virgin. I'm no longer going to be a teenager. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, technically you are still a teenager, but okay. I see you're with that group of boys. And most of the comments are filled with people that are being like, no, it's not the end. I didn't even have my first kiss until I was 23. There's been other people that are like, were you even actually putting in the effort? If you didn't shoot your shot, then you're never going to get it. And then there was this one person who I am just wincing with everything that he says. And I don't care if maybe he doesn't want me to read it on my YouTube channel and make content. He replied to me, therefore I get to do it. This is my life. This is my content. Um, so he's like, gym and a job, and you're pretty much set. You've got to make it, you got to make yourself look good. You got to have money because that's all women care about. And I was like, okay, cool. Um, Someone else replied, like, that sounds really sad. It sounds like sugar dating. And he's like, would you want to date an overweight, unemployed woman? How in the world is anything I said controversial? And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, you're a sad dude. But luckily, this other dude is like, well, you didn't say anything controversial. You just saying things that are controversial. Um, Money and weight don't define the worth of a person, and they just go back and forth, and it's just like, dude is the definition of toxic masculinity. So that is what I'm using this as a jumping off point because he was like, you have to have money unless you're living in your parents' basement. You'd be freeloading otherwise. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, you're sad. And then he decided to call me a neckbeard, which is silly because all of my facial hair is on my sideburns. I can't seem to grow facial hair except there. And just, oh God. I also gave him a hook. I told him that I was fat, not conventionally, I didn't have a conventional job, and that I was going to get married on the first. And he's like, oh, so I see. Your wife must love the fact that you're unhealthy and not contributing. And it's like, cool. Cool, you are that type of person. So let's actually talk about toxic masculinity. What is it? I would argue it's masculinity, generally. But technically, it is this idea that all women are the same. You have to not show emotion, be strong, bring home the money, don't cry. All the conventional boy stuff, like the color blue, um, maybe go for a white collar job if it's like finance or that sort of thing, maybe lawyer, doctor. Don't be a nurse. A nurse is a girly position. Or blue collar jobs. Your wife can't make more than you. You can't be a stay at home dad. You can't be a stay at home man. You can't be the one that's in charge of the house. Who controls the finances is about 50-50. I've seen a lot of toxic masculinity being you have to control everything about the finances and give your wife an allowance to my wife controls the finances because she's in charge of running the house. But it's like the counter of the stereotypical woman role of the stay at home, barefoot and pregnant, make me a sandwich. And it's everything that the man should be. If you think 1950s America stereotypes, you've got toxic masculinity in a nutshell. It's also what prevents men from being able to do things that may be considered feminine, such as enjoying physical intimacy with a male friend, having male friends, having female friends platonically, enjoying things like taking care of yourself, good hygiene. My dog is currently trying to get underneath the door, I think. Um, all of this stuff. And it's why I didn't want to transition for a long time because that's what I saw as masculine. And me growing up as a woman feeling like, oh, I want to be a dude, but everything I see around me of dudeness is gross and nasty and they put down women. And I've already been put down so much in my life and disrespected and overlooked. Why would I want to become that? And it's actually how I came across the non binary identity and why I used that for so long, and partially why I still use it because, well, I think the end goal of feminism is a complete abolition of gender. What do you mean, Isaiah? Well, let's look at feminism. First wave feminism was all about the right to vote. Second wave, all that stuff, steadily getting equal and more equal rights. Most anti-feminist people say that it ends at second wave, third wave feminism. Current wave feminism is too much because it starts looking more at intersectionality, how women and people of color are more oppressed in ways than white women or men. It's also good forms of feminism also look at the toxic aspects of masculinity and patriarchy and how it affects men. So all this toxic masculinity stuff, feminism is, again, good forms of feminism. We know there are not good faith feminists out there. Look at the issues that men have, like men not being able to have paternity leave in some countries. Well, women in the US can't have maternity leave. There's no paid maternity leave, like not guaranteed. But there's also no paternity leave. It's also a little sexist that it's only expected that the women go home and take care of the child. There's also men going to the playground with their kid, and all the other adults are like, holy fuck, is this dude like kidnapping this kid? Especially if it's a little girl, if they have a daughter. Or the fact that men have a lot more trouble securing full parental rights in case of a divorce. Um, Physical and sexual assault against men is also downlooked, and this isn't just a thing that affects the cishet men, it also affects gay men. These are topics that need to be discussed, and they are in good faith forms of feminism. Of course, you also have the men's right movement who like to take these actual concerns of like the sexual physical assault, the lack of paternal rights, the fact that men aren't allowed to express emotion, or experiment with gender, or, like wear nail polish or skirts or whatever they want. Um, or that they have to conform to archaic dating rules where they're supposed to pay for all the dates and pull up the chair for the woman, and they're not allowed to enjoy getting flowers and having romance. They like to take all of these in bad faith. Generally, there are some men's rights activists that are actually feminists, but they don't want to call themselves feminists because they have a hatred of women. It's insane. Like, they get so stuck on the idea of feminism sounding like they want to make women better than men that they take these actual serious issues, they take them seriously, but they excise themselves and make themselves into shitty people because they're refusing to admit that feminism is equal, makes everyone equal. There's a word, I can't pronounce it. Words are hard. Today's not been a good day. Um, so I got distracted. So feminism, how feminism is going to end gender as we know it. The idea, the end goal of feminism is that we want to make women equal to men. We want to make minorities equal to the majority. We want everyone to be on the same playing field. So men would be able to express emotion, experiment, wear makeup, have paternal rights, go to the playground with their kids without being looked at as creepers. Women would be able to be taken seriously in the workforce, have equal pay, have the ability to be more masculine. Minorities would be able to have the equal access to rights. They all the past history of abuse and subjugation would be slowly course corrected through reforms and reparations. So, like, say you are dealing with a neighborhood of predominantly black kids who have really poor teaching schools and stuff, they have really poor grade standards. And it's because there's a history in that neighborhood of the black people getting redlined in there after slavery was over, so it's poor to begin with. Their taxes aren't so great, so we change how schools are funded. We give them extra resources so that they have more ability to go on to college to get into more successful careers, which white kids in white neighborhoods that have higher education testing already don't necessarily need. Well, if we make everybody the same, if we make them equal, what is femininity and masculinity except two sides of the spectrum of aesthetic? And at the end of the day, I think, not in my lifetime, not in 2 lifetimes maybe, but sometime in the future, so long as we don't tear the planet apart and scorch it because of global warming, or drown us all because of global warming, or the polar bears come down and eat us because of global warming, um, or maybe aliens will come and say, hey, you guys fucked your planet up, we're going to kill you now. Who knows? If we don't all die in a hellscape, I think that after we reach the goal of people getting to be equal with each other, femininity and masculinity will just be aesthetic. It will no longer be gender. We will not have to deal with that anymore. Trans people will just be people that have dysphoria with their bodies, that because they don't sync with like the fact that they were born with large gametes that make them have boobs and a vulva, or they have small gametes so they have external genitalia and a lot of body hair and they don't like it, so they can transition to the aesthetic and the body that they prefer. Because at the end of the day, what is transitioning but making the body that you prefer? And there will be less stigma against that. There will be less stigma against stuff like plastic surgery. Because what is plastic surgery but cis people not liking their body, so they make it different to make them happy? It is body dysphoria, which is what so many trans people have, and they don't. God, apparently today is the day where I just bunch everything all together. But yes, toxic masculinity. It's bad. It's why I didn't want to transition to start with. And it's why I'm still scared of one day perhaps being seen as a man. Because then, if I adopt a little girl and I go out to the playground with my little girl, because it's already established between my partner and I that I'm likely the one to stay at home because my skill set isn't good in capitalism, I'd go with my little girl to the playground, and people are going to look at me and see a dude and be like, oh my god, that dude's going to kidnap that little girl and hurt her. And it's like, no. And all of this is because this dude is an idiot on some kid's post and telling him he's got to get a good career and look good to get a woman. I think this is how I go on most of my spiels. But I'm going to end it here because I've just been ranting for like 16 minutes about gender and how it should end, which admittedly is one of my daily topics. Just one day in the future, I'll go on a proper rant and maybe a rant about capitalism too and how capitalism is holding back gender equality. But that's a topic for another day. I'm going to mash this all together and upload it so that I can show my ACE server friends the gradient I'm thinking. I've got a couple of different things. It's going since Fortinbras. I'm going to talk about Minecraft now, so feel free to log off if you're not interested. Fortinbras is going to be a ancient civilization that has been taken over by modern day people. And so I'm wanting the aesthetic of the buildings to reflect that. So I have a couple of different gradient ideas to go with, like the old architecture that's falling apart, the new architecture that's been placed in, and certain points of architecture that's kind of going with both, but also to tie in the fact that there's going to be certain elements that I will talk about more on Saturday. So again, if you want Fortinbras lore, if you're from the ACE SMP server, you'll get it. I'm having some people help me flatten so I can spend a little more time this week focusing on the build in mock-up world. And hopefully I will have at the end of the week, I'll have at least an outline of everything that I want to do, if not the actual gradients and finished external structures. So yeah, that's not going to happen because I have so much to do. I have so many screen prints to make. But hopefully I hear back from the presentation workshop soon, and hopefully I end up being one of the 4 people. I don't think I am, but I'm hoping that's just my anxiety talking and not actually true. So, thank y'all so much. Bye.